Hello! Today's USA v Serbia preview show is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek has made buying tickets online for sports and concerts less confusing than it's ever been. They've come along and created an amazing app and website that makes it easier than ever for fans to buy and sell tickets.
That's right. They do all the price comparison for you by searching multiple ticket sites to ensure the best possible deal. They want to help you get the most bang for your buck, so every ticket on SeatGeek is given a grade based on value. You'll immediately see any underpriced seats and be able to find the best deals that fit your budget.
And I flipped open my phone, looking for upcoming events that I can get tickets to on SeatGeek. Guess what came up? Only the topic of today's show, USA versus Serbia. You can get tickets on SeatGeek. They're going for around $30-ish.
Which ones are more expensive? Tickets to this game or tickets to the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl. I did look, so if you want to go to the Super Bowl, if you really want to go to the Super Bowl, people are reselling their tickets on SeatGeek. Is it Falcons v Patriots?
That sounds about right.
That is the extent of my knowledge.
Good job, buddy.
I do know a lot more about the game that's happening in San Diego than is happening in wherever the Super Bowl is happening.
Good job. Right, so if you want to go to that game in San Diego, you can find those tickets on SeatGeek. They are still available, and it will be an exciting game, as we're about to tell you on today's show.
Oh, you'll be fully prepared for it, I'll tell you that. And if you want to get a $20 rebate on a USA-Serbia ticket or a Super Bowl ticket, our listeners can do that with this special promo code. How do they do it, Taylor?
They download the SeatGeek app, they go to the Settings tab and click Add a Promo Code. They enter the promo code TSS. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase.
So download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code TSS today.
There we are.
Wait. Hold up. I have an important note before you listen to today's show. We recorded this show before Bruce Arena cut the camp down to just 23 players that is taking to San Diego. The players who didn't make the final roster are Taylor Kemp, Keegan Rosenberry, Brian Rowe, Will Trapp, Chris Wondolowski. Also, Gyasi Zardes has a minor contusion. He does not travel with the team. I think there's a point in today's show where Taylor suggests Gyasi Zardes might start on the wing, so worth remembering that's not going to happen now. And I think I also suggest Will Trapp might have got 20 minutes in place of Michael Bradley. That's not going to happen now either. Other than that, all the players we talk about did make the final 23-man roster. Okay, on with the show. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who's making his second or maybe more debut as my TSS co-host. It's Taylor Rockwell.
I'm going to take the over on that one. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you. We are here today to preview the United States of America versus Serbia. It's happening on Sunday. It is Bruce Arena's first game back in charge, second time around.
That is correct.
So let's start with what we know about Serbia.
Okay. Well, it's a country in Europe, and most of the players that we know won't be there. How about that?
Yeah, we know a little, right? We know that it's largely a Serbian domestic league-based roster.
Yeah.
We know that this is a thing they've recently started doing, similar to how the US does this January camp. They've recently started having these out-of-FIFA match calendar games. The last time it didn't go so well.
No? Oh, yeah. Was that the Qatar game?
Yeah, they went to Qatar. They lost 3-0.
Right.
And I think the Serbian press were not impressed. Not impressed with the idea of selecting a B. They kept calling it a B team, and the coach is kind of complaining, well, this is technically a proper international, right?
Yeah, but I think it was also not impressed by that, the result combined with the opponent, the idea that maybe this was more so for money, and it was more about the FA trying to make money. Because I think there is also some criticism by the media of the FA in Serbia. And I can tell you about this team, aside from what we've already talked about. I know that only 8 of the players on the roster have previously been capped, and I know that only 2 are over the age of 25. Okay. So it's very much an experimental, young, and as you said, domestic-based roster that I think maybe is going to be eager to prove itself, however.
It doesn't mean it'll be bad, right? I mean,
No.
Serbia, I know Serbian domestic league is not sort of high-profile European league, but there is plenty of talent in there.
Absolutely.
Right? These are not amateurs. These are professional soccer players in Serbia, and maybe 3-4 years from now you'll hear some of these names elsewhere.
And these are also professional soccer players who I think when we last discussed this, I believe they're also currently on break or coming back from their winter break.
Okay.
But it's basically people who are mid-season in kind of peak form or going to be ready to go for this game. And it's going to be a lot of U.S. players because they're MLS-based who are not going to be maybe not so much in peak form. So we'll see how they do against a young and fit and excited Serbia team.
So we won't go through the US roster because we've done that on previous shows, right? It is MLS based with the addition of Jorge Villafana. We talked about his addition recently. He's on the pile of left backs. We have 4 of them right now. Towards the end of today's show, I think we'll each try and pick our starting 11. But first, maybe let's get into what we're hoping to see in this game, like what we're looking for, what makes this a success. Because we were down on the whole US team after the defeats to Mexico and Costa Rica, right? Jurgen Klinsmann's gone, Bruce Arena's come in. What are we looking for to make us optimistic for the rest of the HEX, the World Cup qualifying cycle, to make us think that things will be going well?
At the risk of being a bit of a hypocrite, I'm going to use kind of a Jurgen Klinsmann word here, and I'm going to say like energy is the best way I can put it, because I don't necessarily care about, is it a 4-2-3-1, is it a 4-1-4-1, a 4-4-2? I don't really care about the formation itself. What I would like to see overall is a lot of these players showing that, like, yep, we're up for this now. That maybe the energy was low a little bit. You've got a new manager coming in. You want to prove yourself that it's going to be just a little bit sharper, that work ethic is going to be just a little bit higher than it's been in the past.
Okay, I'm with you, but I have trouble with things like energy and rhythm and all that because I find it hard to... It's hard to judge whether it's there or not. So what would be the actual physical things that you would see on the television that would make it clear that that is happening?
I mean, like, so part of it would be just people kind of going in for tackles that maybe you wouldn't expect people to go in for in the January friendlies. So it's people really working, putting in that extra, like, little bit of effort to win that ball back, to win the ball off of a player, to make the defensive play. Then I think it's also the sharpness with which people are playing the ball forward, because Bruce Arena said previously he wants to be aggressive from the outset. I know Grant Wall for Sports Illustrated reiterated that point as well. So maybe it's also the directness, the aggressiveness with which the United States attack. Maybe it's a little less timid than it's been in the past, and a little more like, let's get those goals, let's get the result early.
I want to say it can be about body language as well. Do you remember we saw the US when they went down to Cuba? And you could tell that those players did not want to be on that field, in that game, were pretty much not interested. Right?
And that's a perfect reminder, thank you, because that's exactly what I think this game would be if it weren't Bruce Arena in charge. And it's not even, I'm not even necessarily saying like Bruce Arena has some motivational ability that Jurgen Klinsmann didn't. It's just that I think those friendlies felt a little bit like, what are we doing here? We know you're just going to do the same stuff. You're going to try different things.
And we've just been doing a lot of shuttle runs and
and now all of a sudden 20 minutes before the game you say, you know, we're going to play 3 in the back. I'm like, wait, what are we doing? 3 in the back, and Michael Bradley and Jermaine Jones are 2 of those 3. Like, so I think just in the sense that like I do think you'll see that attitude adjustment, and I hope that you do, because it has that much more significance, because these will help inform who gets chosen for those March World Cup qualifiers.
All right, here's the thing I'm looking for, a very simple thing. All right, new boss, new regime. I want to see a new approach on social media. When the lineup is tweeted out from the @US Soccer account.
You want them in the formation?
I want them in the formation. I don't want 11 players like randomly arranged and then you just have to guess what the formation is.
Yeah, because a lot of times you get them...
It's a simple ask, right? I think I can get this one.
Because sometimes it's just like the 11 players posing, or sometimes it's the 11 profile pictures. But then other times it has been like roughly in the shape of an 11-a-side team, but they're all out of position where it would be like previously it was like Tim Howard as like left wing. Like, wait, what? That's not where he goes.
And it's not quite alphabetical order, so it's not that. And it just seems like it's been kind of randomly put together. So I would
almost like they found out the lineup 20 minutes before the game as well, and they're still not entirely sure what the shape is going to be.
You said
it's a distinct possibility. Yeah.
So, and okay, part of that then, if you let me have a second point, because that was a short. That's not a joke, by the way. I actually want to see that.
No, that's fair.
I would like to be able to very easily tell what the US are trying to do. In the first few minutes.
So again,
I found it hard in the past with Jurgen Klinsmann. I would like to see Bruce Arena. You said you weren't so concerned what the formation is. I kind of agree, but I want to know, whatever it is, I want to be able to easily identify it within 5 minutes.
Or be able to see, they've clearly been working on ball goes out wide to the right, whoever starts out wide like has Zusi overlapping. Like, and it's a clear, they've done that twice now in the first 10 minutes. They're clearly working on a specific type of attack.
So I'm talking about like patterns of play. It's definitely something that's been prepared and they're trying to implement. Even if unsuccessfully, I want to know that this is a thing we've worked on, this is a thing we're trying to do.
And I totally agree with that. And that's what I mean when I say the formation isn't as important as like the kind of signs of life from a team that hasn't had them in the past.
All right.
I think a big sign of life for me would be their performance performance of Josie Altidore. Had a strong MLS campaign, obviously. Is generally pretty strong for the U.S. national team. My concern is going to be, as we've talked about many times, that he's at his strongest when he has a partner up top.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that he won't. They may go in a 4-4-2. That's a decent chance. But I feel like it's probably going to be something closer to a 4-2-3-1 or thereabouts. And that means Altidore by himself.
Yeah, I think it's going to be... It might be difficult to put a name on it.
Like 4-3-3 maybe, something like that.
4-1-4-1. It's all, in the end, it's all kind of the same thing, right? It's you get at least 3 guys in central midfield in some arrangement and a solo striker.
Yeah.
I just want to echo your point. I've written down as one of my points, I want to see successful solo Josie.
Yeah, and what I mean by that, I think, and I have written down, Josie gets consistent support and doesn't look isolated. Because that's what has happened with him, both at club and national team levels, that if he's up top by himself, a lot of times he doesn't have people running off of him, so he ends up just trying to hold it up. That's not really his game.
That's why Toronto ended up flipping it around quite a lot, right? They have Giovinco the farthest forward and Josie a little bit underneath.
Right. And so what I would like to see is if you are trying to have him up there by himself, that he has people running off of him, if it's that like central attacking midfielder, if it's the wingers coming inside, or if it's him shifting over to try to overload one side.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him just long ball hoofed up top, and then he has to try to kind of battle a young Serbian center back, which could work because maybe it's a 20-year-old center back who is not used to Josie Altidore's physicality, and then that looks fine. But then when you go up against
Serbian centre backs are going to be used to physicality.
That's probably
right?
true. But you know what I mean, though, that like it also wouldn't mean as much if it's just like a ball hoofed on, he knocks somebody over and then scores. It's like that's great for maybe confidence, but in terms of what you're going to try to do in World Cup qualifiers, that probably doesn't work quite as well.
Yes, if we can end up with a system that basically does have Josie as some sort of central solo striker, but everything else clicks around him, and then it's not a waste to have him there, it opens up so many possibilities when we're thinking about what the team can be going forward. It's almost like unlocking your mind, right? You can think about what else can happen.
Yeah, or unlocking your attack, because I think it coincides with your earlier point, which is that you want to see like a clear game plan, right? And I think that if you see people making runs off of Josie, if they are playing the balls into his feet, people making runs off to support, that it's a very they've worked on, it's a direct ball from the center back, it bypasses the midfield, it goes to Josie's feet, but Josie touches it back to Sasha Question or Benny Feilhaber or whomever. Like you see that they have worked on a game plan, and it's not just like kick it long and hope.
This is the patterns of play again, right? And everyone knows what's supposed to be happening. All right, here's another thing I want to see. Instructions from Bruce Arena. So do you remember...
You want to see that happen?
Yeah, so mid-game, I want to see Arena give specific instructions, even when he's sending a sub on. And I've got to be honest, a lot of this I'm thinking about...
Oh, I know.
In contrast to what I saw with Jurgen Klinsmann, because we rewatched this again.
There it is. I knew that's what it was. It's the Christian Pulisic one, isn't it? Yep.
So we're losing to Argentina. Klinsmann sends on Pulisic, Copa America, Centenario semi-final, and he says, go out and have fun.
He does, and if you watch it again, because I didn't remember this at the time, I remembered that it was like, oh, there's some laughter there. And I feel like he's really, really close to Christian Pulisic when he's giving these instructions, which, number one, is weird because, as we know, they weren't specific instructions. He said it was like, go out, have fun, try to make something happen. But it's also clear that you can see kind of the discomfort on Pulisic's face. And I feel like part of that was because Klinsmann's so close. But part of that was also but that's... Like Thomas Tuchel tells me, go do this specifically, or go here and drop
Thomas
there.
Tuchel says, make sure you stay wide, stay on the touchline,
exactly.
Do this, do that, right?
And so it felt like sort of, I can't even explain it other than if I was giving you instructions for something to do and you had done that job previously, and then my instructions were have fun with it, and you're like, well, but my old boss told me do this and this and this, and I had very clear ideas. Oh boy.
To give an analogy that maybe doesn't work outside the room, but hopefully makes sense to people, we bullet point the show, right?
Yeah.
We knew that we were going to be talking about things we want to see. And we knew that later in the show, we're going to try and pick our lineups, right? But the Klinsmannish version of that would have been, we'll talk about the game. Yeah. Go out there and have some chat.
I'm going to extend it. I'm going to go with another analogy. To me, it would be the equivalent of if you're in the Air Force and you're a pilot and your commander is you have all these instructions okay, you're going to take off, you're going to do this, you're going to go here, you have to monitor this, monitor your altitude, monitor your speed, all that kind of stuff. And then that commanding officer gets replaced and the new one is you know what, just get out there and fly, have fun, see what's up. Make sure you come back though before you run out of gas. All right, have a good time. It's just that sort of no, there's supposed to be more to this. And so I'm with you that I want to see those instructions coming in from Bruce Arena.
Yeah.
The specific, this isn't working, we're going to change it this way.
And just you'll see him making hand gestures and saying, do this, do that. So that's what I want to. That's what I'm hoping to see.
And I want to continue with that to say I also want to see him doing that, certainly with the feedback from his players.
Him being Bruce?
Yeah, him being Bruce. Because the other time that we saw Jurgen Klinsmann making those in-game adjustments, it also tended to be with the quote-unquote help of players like Michael Bradley and Jermaine Jones. And so I would rather see him... I don't
want to see that.
Yeah, I'd rather see him... Well, I'd rather see him call them over and say, this is what I want you to do, and give those instructions, and not have it be them saying, hey, this Serbian midfielder is destroying us. We need to fix this. Your game plan has not worked.
I mean, we're in trouble if that happens.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. I don't see that happening.
I don't either. In terms of things I do want to see happening, I do want to see if Benny Feilhaber is all that Twitter thinks he is. Because... I mean, really, we haven't watched that much of him in Major League Soccer. We didn't see him in the playoffs because Sporting KC had a rough season. Mm-hmm. So I want to see what he can do for the U.S. national team. It's been a very long time since he was there, and so I want to see if he comes into this game. I don't have him starting in my theoretical lineup.
I don't think Arena does either, because Arena's high on Sacha Kljestan, right? And I think Benny Feilhaber is like the second choice creative midfielder.
Mm-hmm. But I would like to see one of those moments. I would like to allow...
There's another game to come as well, right? There's the Jamaica game. So you'll see him at some point in the next week or so.
Yeah, but I would like to allow Matt Doyle to have that GIF and have it say, this is what people have been screaming about with Benny Feilhaber. And it's him threading a ball through three defenders that maybe doesn't lead to anything. But you know what I mean? There's one moment that you can point to and say, that's what we've been missing. That's why people wanted Benny Feilhaber in this team.
That's another thing I want. I want course for Matt Doyle and his armchair analyst column at MLSsoccer.com to be able to write a positive thing that's not like pointing out flaws in the game, but celebrating positive things that he's seen. And that's not a knock on Matt at all. It's more that if you're the kind of very tactical thinking guy he is, I feel like he's suffered the last few years banging his head against a wall with Klinsmann. Now at least he'll have something good to sink his teeth into.
Speaking of Matts that have suffered because of Klinsmann, do we think Matt Tomaszewicz, the Shin Guardian, do we think he is happy and writing happy tweets this game?
I think his tweets will, they'll at least start out a lot more optimistic. Right?
I think, maybe fewer references to dumpster fires and the like. Yeah, I think so. So that's one thing I would like to see. What else have you got, Daryl Grove?
I want to see the Zusi experiment. So one of the things that's been talked about, is that on your list too?
Yes, it is. And I have him starting at right back.
All right, so one of the things that's been talked about is Graham Zusi is in the camp to see if he is an option at right back. That's pretty much what Bruce Arena said in the Q&A, right? I want to just have this as an experiment and just decide whether it works or not, right? Let's go all in, let's do it for a whole game, maybe 2 games, and we can all watch and see, does this work? Does Graham Zusi at right back work well enough to be an actual option for the US men's national team? And that means if he has a bad 45 minutes against Serbia at right back, I don't want him subbed off and then we try someone else. I want at least to see him get 60, 70 minutes so we get a good set of data of Graham Zusi international right back.
That makes sense.
Do the experiment all the way in.
You've also just triggered something in my mind, which is I don't think we talked about this, about why you would try Graham Zusi at right back if you're Bruce Arena. I know it's happened at other times. I think Sporting KC.
Yeah, he's done it for Sporting KC, yeah.
But I'm wondering if this is not Jurgen Klinsmann, Bruce Arena doing what you wanted and showing you a sign of what's to come. Because the idea would be if you're starting Graham Zusi at right back, it is probably not for his defensive capabilities. I'm sure he's fine, but it's not that he's such an outstanding defender. It's that he can defend but also get forward, contribute to the attack. That sounds very much like another right back that we both know named DeAndre Yedlin. And it makes me wonder if he's that's part of his game plan, is we're going to have an attacking right back. Yedlin can't be here, so I want to find somebody who can be an attacking right back for us. And maybe that then points to he wants his left back to be a little bit less focused on attack, more on defensive responsibilities, because then maybe you can fluctuate and have an attacking right back and put Fabian Johnson at left midfield if and when he comes in.
Well, it depends. So those left backs are going to be Taylor Kemp, who's a much more attacking left back than defensive left back. DeMarcus Beasley, who I guess doesn't get forward as much as he did, but again, also we think Beasley's probably in camp more for personality than for
I think so.
Potential to play left back. I'm going to eat my words when he starts against Honduras in March.
Yeah,
right?
You will.
Greg Garza, I think is a decent balance between the two from what I've seen of him. We'll see more of him playing for Atlanta this season. And Villafana, there it is. I feel like he's more of an attacking left back than a defensive left back.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah,
but maybe it points to he has this idea that you have very attacking fullbacks is going to be part of his game plan. So you want a fullback who can be attacking on both sides of the ball, and that's Graham Zusi for him. But I'm with you that I'd like to see what he can do, and I'd like to see him do well.
And even if he does badly, at least we did the experiment and we're like, okay, got it. We check it off. We did it. That's why scientists do experiments, right? Is to decide whether it's a positive or a negative, whether it supports their hypothesis or not.
Yeah, and I think that's a big component of all of the things I'd like to see is sort of okay, yep, one way or the other. And so with that comes, for example, I would like someone in the best case scenario, someone to cement their spot at defensive midfield. Now, I think that would have been Kellen Acosta, would have been the most likely candidate to do that. Obviously, he's left because of injury, which leaves you with Sebastian Lletget, I've heard some people rumor, Jermaine Jones, and Will Trapp are the three most likely names. I think not in that order, but those are your possibilities.
All right, so we're going to segue into picking our 11 soon.
Sure.
But are we both assuming that Michael Bradley is going to be a number 6? And I am, because Bruce Arena basically said that, right?
I think
so. When you say defensive midfielder, you mean the guy who either plays alongside him or maybe slightly ahead of him?
Yeah, more or less,
so essentially, we're talking about the guy who, whatever the shape of those three central midfielders is, you're going to have Michael Bradley as the 6. You're going to have a 10, right? It seems like Arena...
It's going to be Sasha Kleshtin.
It's going to be Sasha Kleshtin, right? You say that. And, 10, I don't mean like in a Riquelme kind of way, but there's going to be an attacking midfielder who is a bit creative, right? And there's going to be the other guy.
If they do the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 formation, then yes, there'll be another one. If they don't, then we've just named the two central midfielders.
Yes, I think that's also possible. But I think the future is at least 3 bodies in midfield in some configuration, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's really all about figuring out who that guy is.
And I think the person I would most like to see get the start in this game, I don't think he will, but the player I would most like to see get the start and perform really well and make us think he could do it, is Will Trapp. And the reason why, I love me some Jermaine Jones. He's finally signed with LA. He's ready for the season. He's excited to go. The big thing is that he's suspended for that first World Cup qualifier. Yeah. And so if you're trying to get an idea of who can do what, Bruce Arena, we've seen in the clips that he knows Jermaine Jones is an animal, that he can play, that he's always going to give you everything.
That's Bruce Arena's word, not ours.
Yeah, true. But with that, I think then you know what you're going to get out of him. You know what he can do in that role. Yeah. And so maybe you want to see another guy come in, get that start in that first game, in Bruce Arena's first game in his second stint, and see what he can do with pressure on him. And I think there would be.
I think the guy I would like to see if we're doing this kind of experimental type thing is Dax McCarty.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Oh, yeah, and he would be the other one I left out. You're
if
right.
Bradley's a little more holding, Kleshtin's a little more attacking, I think McCarty has a bit of both ways about him, and he covers some ground.
Why did I leave him off my list? I'm so mad at myself now, because I love Dax. Yeah.
The other thing I think about is, I am the driver of the Will Trapp bandwagon.
I know you are, buddy.
For many years. I think of him not as a partner for Michael Bradley, but as kind of the understudy. Right? He's the guy, if this was a play on Broadway, he'd be the guy hoping that Michael Bradley gets laryngitis.
Or having a sick person cough into a glass of water and then be like, hey, here, Michael.
You look thirsty, Michael.
Yeah.
Just because they both have that diagonal pass skill set, they're kind of deep midfielders without being outright defensive midfielders in a Kyle Beckerman sense. So I'm not saying it couldn't work, the two of them, but I really see Trapp as more like...
No, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, and
I've already changed my projected starting 11 based on this conversation. So thanks for that.
It sounds like we're moving into projected starting 11. It sounds like we've basically started in midfield here,
Well, I've got a few more things though that I'd like to see first.
Oh, okay. We'll come back around to this then.
Sure. I can do it really quickly because again, it's fairly similar. I'd like to see the new center back options prove that they deserve consideration. So whomever starts, I know we've seen a couple different places that people think it's going to be Steve Birnbaum. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, or Walker Zimmerman or Chad Marshall. I wouldn't be surprised if any of them.
Not Matt Hedges.
No, probably not. Probably not Matt Hedges. And then in terms of the left back situation as well, I'd like to see somebody start and perform consistently and kind of give us something to consider in terms of, do we start Fabian Johnson at left back, or do we put him farther forward and have whomever comes out of this camp as that left back?
Okay, interesting. Or if none of it works, Fabian Johnson's in
exactly.
That's pretty much the situation. Right? Yeah. All right, do you want to get to the 11?
Sure.
Okay. Let's start in goal.
Sure.
Your options are Robles, Bingham, Brian Rowe, Nick Romando.
Yep.
It's kind of probably not what Klinsmann had planned. Sorry, what Arena had planned. Sorry, Force of Habit.
Yeah, we keep doing that, right?
Yeah.
But he's lost 2 now, right? Bill Hamid was called in. Bill Hamid's gone with injury. Stefan Fry also called in, and he has been sent home as well with injury.
Yep. So, and then you've got, obviously, Howard and Gazan would have been in and around this. You've got Ethan Horvath, Yarborough also would have been in and around this.
Those are the ones
so
he's listed.
We're lowish down the depth chart now.
So he said there were eight people in consideration. He's added 2 more. So now we're up to 10 different people in consideration.
All right, let's figure this out. Are we picking our team here? Are we sort of guessing at Bruce Arena's team, or is it a bit of both?
A bit of both.
Okay. Are we trying to win this game?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
No. Okay. Yes, you always want to win the game, but I think the bigger thing shouldn't just be, let's throw on a bunch of people and do this is the Jurgen Klinsmann thing of win the game with your 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th subs. That's not what you're going to be able to do. So I'd rather see the United States kind of stick with a game plan and see if it works. And if it doesn't work after the Serbia game, then you change it for the Jamaica game.
I think there's a PR thing here where people are going to want an exciting start to this game to be like, we're back. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where you get probably the strongest possible team.
Okay.
And with that in mind, I had originally written Bingham as my starter, just if nothing else, because he was the youngest of the 4 keepers.
And can I pause you to say I had originally written Luis Robles, just because he's been there before, he's gotten a start before, and now I'm with you that it's going to be, should we say it together?
Yep.
Nick Rimando. Yep.
Just because he's the most experienced guy and maybe he's the guy to trust.
I think so. I mean, you could make the argument that maybe he's there in a similar to DeMarcus Beasley role, that he's there as like a leader, a calming presence, a locker room guy.
Yeah.
But that might also translate into you're going to have a bunch of experimentation in your back four. Bruce Arena has said he wants a much stronger back four that is kind of, we know what we're getting out of it. So maybe Nick Rimando helps you because he's got that experience. He knows how to command that back four, both at club level and national team level.
Okay. All right. So who's your centre backs?
Well, I originally had Chad Marshall and Zimmerman. And I had that because Zimmerman, again, it was the arbitrary reason that he listed him first when he listed the 4 center backs. And Chad Marshall was because he being Arena when he did the Facebook Live video. And then Chad Marshall because he singled out Chad Marshall for like how good he'd been, how strong of a season he'd had. That said, I'm a big believer in like the trends when it comes to the way the team is discussed.
Yeah.
I've now seen 2 different previews about this game written with what can Steve Birnbaum do to impress. Again, we've heard other people talk about that. So I now think it will probably be Steve Birnbaum and one of Chad Marshall or Zimmerman. And I feel like I'd prefer it be Chad Marshall, but I'm going to say Zimmerman.
I'm going to say definitely Birnbaum. And the reason being that he is, of all the centre-backs selected, he's the only one that's been sort of semi-regularly involved in the senior squad for the big games, right? So he's, in some ways, he's the most senior centre-back.
Even though Chad Marshall has more caps, weirdly enough.
Yeah, but not recently.
Sure.
Those are some 2009 caps.
They sure are.
And then alongside him, because I think you want a solid start, I think it will be Chad Marshall for that experience. Right?
Yeah, I think
you've got
either way,
relative inexperience but recent experience of Birnbaum and just general soccer experience, enough to win an MLS Cup of Chad Marshall.
Yeah, I think the only reason why I would lean, could be talked into leaning towards Walker Zimmerman is just because he is younger and because he, I believe, does not yet have a cap for the U.S. national team.
Right, but there's 2 games to go, right?
This is very true.
There's the second half of this game, there's the whole Jamaica
game. You're right. Yeah? You're right. Then it's more. I feel like you're right. Then it's more likely that Walker Zimmerman
banging headers away.
I think you're right.
Every cross that comes in, Chad Marshall meets it. Get away.
The question is, who is better between Jamaica and this Serbia team? Because then the other option is...
Honestly, I haven't seen Jamaica's roster.
Because the other option is, like, what if you draw this game 0-0 and then you lose to Jamaica 1-0 with an inexperienced back line? That's not great. So we shall see. I think you're right, though. I think it probably is Marshall and Birnbaum just for the veteran-ness nature. Then I'll say that I think we both agree it's going to be Graham Zusi at right back.
Yes. And, again, there are reasons for it. He will provide beautiful crosses when he does overlap and get forward. Zusi is a hard worker, right? He will put a shift in on that right flank. I still don't have a good image in my head or a good feel in my head for what he's like one-on-one when a left winger runs at him and does a couple of step-overs. I don't know what Graham Zusi does in that situation.
Right.
He may pass with flying colours. He may fall over. We'll find out on Sunday.
And I think we definitely will find out because, again, he's been getting a lot of headlines as like Graham Zusi figuring out right back. Graham Zusi comfortable playing in defence. And then I think it's also, again, it's a stated objective to see what he can do. So I think he's there. My question is, who have you got at left back?
Weirdly, it's completely counterintuitive. I've got Jorge Villafana.
As do I.
It makes no sense, right? He was just called into squad on, Wednesday or Thursday? So the game is on Sunday.
Today's Thursday, so Wednesday.
He has maybe 4 days with the team. So it makes no sense for him to be the guy that goes in and starts. But I've got this weird feeling that maybe Arena was so excited when he found out he had the opportunity to bring Villafana in. He's like, yes, let's get him in. And he's thinking, everything he's thinking is Villafana. Let's get him in. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I think he starts.
And I think you're trying to take the nice way out of saying that there were 3 other left backs there. And is it telling that he's called in another left back and that we both think he might start?
Well, we had this conversation, 2 shows ago? It might just be that, he was going to be called in to begin with and then he became available, so why not call him in anyway? Or it may be that he's not so impressed. Arena's not so impressed with Kemp or Gaza, and so therefore Villafana's there to sort of... plug a hole.
And we know that,
we don't know.
Again, in the video of Bruce Arena's first training session, one of the things we see singled out is him talking to Greg Garza and being like, how's your ankle? How you feeling? Are you settled in? All those types of questions. So it could be maybe that he isn't quite sure of Garza's fitness yet. That could be one argument. The other question I have for you then is we've now talked about how if you're trying to win this game, you want veteran experience, that you start players like Nick Rimando, like maybe not Zimmerman, but instead Birnbaum and Marshall. So why wouldn't you start DeMarcus Beasley?
I don't have a good answer to that. Maybe you do. Maybe you do to begin with, yeah.
I think that's unlikely. I think it will either be Greg Garza because he's been in the camp and Bruce Arena wants to see what he can do, or it will be Jorge Villafana, but I have Villafana listed as my number 1 left back.
So do I.
All right.
So, moving into midfield.
Sure.
We're both working on the basis, I think, of a solo striker,
mm-hmm.
right? Josie Altidore.
Yep.
Which means then 2 wingers outside of him, and I'm going to call it 3 central midfielders in some combination.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to both agree Michael Bradley's going to be like a number 6 holding midfielder.
Correct.
We're looking forward to seeing that under Arena, right? Because again, like Altidore as a lone striker, I feel like there's more chance of Bradley looking very successful in that role when the rest of the system is functioning around him and Bradley's not trying to do his job and do someone else's job and be all over the place and be the holding midfielder.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that. So we agree on already 2 of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's that third one, right? We already started talking about it. I've got a feeling that Arena's been so impressed with Jermaine Jones. We saw him again in the video going, I just can't believe he's on it already.
Yeah.
Even though Jones is suspended in March, I think Arena's going to want to win this game, make a really strong impression, a good strong start in his second term. I think he won't be able to resist starting Jermaine Jones.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that
Bradley, Jones, Kleshton, and that's quite a good midfield.
Yeah, I think so, and I could absolutely see that. I have it as Bradley, Kleshton, and after our conversation, Dax McCarty.
Okay.
And the reasons why are because, number one, as we talked about, Jermaine Jones won't be there, so you maybe want to see if Dax McCarty can step in, if need be, but also because if you are trying to change the system a little bit, if you are trying to make it so like Bradley can feed the ball in to Josie Altidore, that he'll have Kleshton playing off of him, you need someone to do that extra amount of running and to do that kind of work. We know Bruce Arena has been impressed by Dax McCarty. We know they have an existing relationship, even though McCarty is no longer with New York, but Kleshton and McCarty have that relationship. So I think all of those arguments make sense as to why he would start.
Yeah.
The counter argument would be that maybe you want to make sure Jermaine Jones can do that work, that he can do the discipline work, that he can kind of fulfill all the roles that he's being asked to do that are required of him.
Yeah.
And so you want to see in this game, can he execute a game plan, or is he going to do the Jermaine Jones thing and kind of run around a little bit?
But I kind of think if it's his 3-man midfield and Bradley's holding and Kleshton's more attacking, it's kind of Jones's job to run around a little bit, right? At least there's more scope for him to do it and not leave a massive hole.
Yeah, I think so. But with discipline, with the game plan.
McCarty and Jones have discipline, but also energy, and so they fit that spot.
I would say McCarty has discipline. Sure, I don't think discipline. If you're looking at Jermaine Jones's FIFA attributes, I don't think discipline is particularly high for him.
Didn't someone once tell us his FIFA attribute would just be a punch?
Yes, probably. Speaking of which, really quickly, kind of take us off on a I'm going to anyway, so I don't care what you say.
I appreciate you asking.
Today's Jose Mourinho's birthday, and I read a story about him and his time at Inter Milan, and he was talking about this one game he was managing where he had basically all of his strikers except for Mario Balotelli were injured. And so Balotelli starts the game, goes out and gets a yellow card. So Jose Mourinho, his only hope is make it to halftime, make it to halftime. They get to halftime, they go in. And his quote was that he spent 14 of the 15 minutes talking to Mario Balotelli of do not react. If they rile you up, don't react. If there's a foul called, don't react. Don't do anything. We cannot risk it because we have no other strikers. And he's like, yes, I've got it. He sends the team back out and he stays behind, I think, to talk to the trainer for a second. And as he leaves, Mario Balotelli walks in because he got a red card in the first minute of the second half. So there it is for discipline.
Oh, I mean, Jermaine Jones is better than that.
Let's hope so.
Getting towards this, going back a little bit to the things we were hoping for. The way I just described that midfield is one holding, one more box to box, like the Jones McCarty type guy, a little bit more energy, but aggression. One more creative. I really am looking forward to having a US where I want that to be the makeup of a midfield.
Yep.
And then those guys can be different guys. Like the creator can be Failhaber, the creator can be Nagby instead of Kleshton.
Plug and play. Yeah, I know
plug and play. Yeah, and then it can be McCarty or Jones or Acosta if he's not injured and he comes back. And then it can be Bradley or Trapp or maybe Acosta there as well. Right, so that's one of the things I'm looking for.
I'm with you.
Okay, we both say Josie, lone striker.
So then we're looking at our wide attackers. I'm going to say Darlington Nagbe and Giassi Zardes.
I've got Darlington Nagbe on the right, and I'm doing this mostly because Bruce Arena, I believe, said Nagbe's going to be a wide player with us to start.
He is primarily a wide player to start. Yep.
Yes, okay. And then I think on the left, Jordan Morris doing what he did for Seattle on that MLS Cup run. Left-footed, right foot, kind of an extra striker, but also width and pace out wide, ready for a counter.
Okay, that's possible for sure. But I'm going to go back to Bruce Arena's comments when he discussed the players. A big thing I guess he did in that Facebook Live thing and looking back was go by number. So he would say, like, oh, he could do this, he could do this, he could do this, but he lists all the numbers.
He said Morris is a 7, a 9, or 11.
He said 9 first.
He did,
that's the difference. And so that's where it is for me.
That's because Jordan Morris would like to be known as a 9, right? That's where he wants to play.
I mean, Gyasi Zardes is a 9 for LA. That's where he's going to be playing. But he listed him as a 7 or an 11 first, because that's where I think Gyasi Zardes is going to feature for this U.S. team, even if he's listed as a forward on this roster.
Yeah.
And I think Jordan Morris is going to be seen as either a complement to Josie Altidore in a 4-4-2 or a two-man strike force, or as like potentially a lone striker on his lonesome.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? Or like kind of a substitute if you have Josie and Bobby Wood playing together, then maybe Jordan Morris can come on.
You mean when Bobby Wood comes back into the squad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Nagbe Morris out wide. You're not shifting me from that. What have you got?
I've got Nagbe Zardes.
Nagbe Zardes. And Morris just maybe coming in off the bench for Altidore or someone.
Yeah, or even for Zardes or Nagbe. That's a distinct possibility too. Or he comes in and plays more central, but I don't think he starts.
Okay.
That said, again, I've seen him doing lots of media appearances. The ones I've seen so far have been...
That might be because the LA people know him.
That's definitely true, but I haven't seen much Zardes, and I'm pretty sure the LA people know him too. I've seen a lot of Beasley, and I've seen a lot of Jordan Morris doing media appearances.
Interesting.
So we shall see, I suppose. Okay. So our big disagreements would be... the midfielders, I've got Dax, you've got Jermaine Jones, and then I've got Gyasi Zardes, and you've got Jordan Morris.
Yep, I'm kind of happy all around, though.
Yeah, I think so. There's not one that I'd be like, ooh, that's no good.
I'd be just more excited to see Morris because, like, we've seen plenty of Zardes and we kind of know what he's about, right? He brings a certain amount of hard work and energy and occasional flair, but sometimes that loose touch that frustrates people. Whereas Jordan Morris, it's still this, like... we haven't quite unleashed him on the international scene yet. Right?
We haven't.
So it's exciting to see it happen.
And I think the other point there with Jordan Morris is, I mean, that's what he does for Seattle. I mean, that's how he succeeds.
At least
with
for
Seattle.
The last part of the season.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's the key part that matters because that's what leads to an MLS Cup, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to keep him in a position where he's become comfortable, where he is clearly a potent attacking force, then it is out wide on the left or on the right. We'll see.
So the game is Sunday. It's 1 o'clock Pacific. It's 4 o'clock Eastern. The game is on ESPN2. I believe.
You are correct.
We will be watching it here in studio.
Also correct.
We will be getting a review show out that Sunday evening. Total Soccer Show, Sunday night show, will be a review of USA v Serbia, hopefully with happy faces.
Indeed. Hopefully so. Hopefully so.
All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Hey, buddy. Yeah. Right back at you.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again on Sunday night. Slice it.